And now, from the country music capital of the world, the best in independent real country and Americana music. Hi, I'm your host, J. Raleigh Jones, and welcome to my show. In addition to my own music, you will hear really talented artists from here and other parts of the world. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. You know, every week on the J. Raleigh Jones Show, we have special guests. We have a special guest this week, and I'd like you to meet Rick Scott.
Hey, JR.
And Mary Struble. And they are co-writers, and they both have different careers, but I think you're going to enjoy getting to know Rick and Mary. Rick, can you tell me a little bit about your musical history? When did you first get interested in music?
Oh, Lord, I was way young, probably 3 or 4 years old. My family was into music, you know, so I had it around me all my life. So it was a natural thing to do. There was always musicians around and players, and my father played, and his father played, and my brothers played, older brothers, so it was a natural. So I came by it honest.
You grew up with it then?
Grew up with it, yeah.
So what was your instrument of choice?
My instrument was drums. I was the drummer in the family, and I devoted a lot of years to being a drummer, and that's how I wound up coming to Nashville, was as a drummer, session drummer. And so yeah, I pursued that for years and years, and did about all I could do with drums.
How old were you when you first went on stage and played drums?
Oh, I believe I was around 9. Had my first professional gig when I was 14, starting at 14. Cool. Working the bars and the circuit up around Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio, and moved to Nashville not long after. Yeah.
So, what was it like when you first moved to Nashville?
Fun. Nashville, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you know, anything went at that time. I wasn't intimidated by anything because I was too young to be. You know, ignorance is bliss. So
I discovered that.
Yeah. So anyway, it was nice. I had an older brother here who was working at the time, my brother Arliss, and he was working with a picker-singer Billy Walker show. As you well know, Billy Walker, you know, of Grand Ole Opry days.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he had his own television show, and my brother worked that show for years, and with Billy on the road, and did the Opry every weekend. So I was pretty lucky in that regard. I had a shoe in, you know. I had a friend in town, so to speak, you know. So that's how I wound up here, was working with my brother.
Well, Rick, tell me about your teenage years when you were playing.
You want to know about the teenage years?
Yeah.
Well, early on, I had met, of course, through my brother, and being a session player himself, I met a lot of people who were recording artists, you know, on things that he was working on, and so I met a lot of recording artists. And early on, I'd met a group called Wild Country, and they were recording, who later became Alabama, of course, and they were recording at the same studio my brother and I worked at, and so I started working with them. I went on the road with them for a few years, and
how old were you when you started with them?
I was 16, 17, and went on the road with them 4.5 years.
What was that like?
It was great. Those guys really took me under their wing too, and taught me the ropes on songwriting, and so there was a lot of collaborative work that went on, you know, as musicians as well as writers. And so one thing led to another, and I wound up playing drums on several of the albums that came out in the early years. And I had several songs on each album, you know, which went on to do good things, you know. And I was blessed, man. I was hanging out with some good people, you know, all around me, not just the band, but even back in town when I was home, I worked for different publishing companies, and was around a lot of good artists and good people, good music people behind the scenes, you know, and I was the youngest around, you know, and they kind of took me in as their child, I guess you could say, and reared me in this town. So I've been around here a long time, since 1975.
Do you remember your first recording session?
Oh, wow. As a player?
As a player.
Yeah, I do. I think I was 16 playing drums on my first session. And it was, we did a lot of gospel sessions back then, and so it was real enjoyable. I really enjoyed the days in the studio, and we got to do all kinds of music because different bands would come through town, and record projects, and so I was exposed to a lot of different music. Although I was sitting right in the heart of country, we did a little bit of all of it, so I had a lot of exposure into different avenues, and I think that helped me, of course, through the years, But yeah, I remember pretty much everything I did session-wise because I enjoyed it so much,
Was there a particular studio that you recorded?
There was a studio downtown. It still stands today. At that time, it was called LSI Studio, and it was run by a dear friend of mine, George Lewis, and a friend of my brother's, and he ran it for years, him and his wife Kathy, and it was a great place to hang out. You didn't just work there, it was home for all of us. Back then, a lot of musicians used to hang out downtown whether we were working or not. We would collaborate, songwriting, in any room that we could find that was empty, or we all kind of helped each other along, on that climb, So, yeah, it was LSI Studio. It still stands today. I'm not sure what the name of it is now, but I think it's a television production company in there now, yeah, right down on 17th.
On those sessions, were they different than they're done today?
Well, yeah, of course, with the technology, what it has become, of course, we record it differently. Most of it was done analog, and it was on 2-inch tape, and there were 24 tracks on that tape, and to us at the time, that was cutting edge, but because we had 4-track TAC machines that we used to use, and we could ping pong tracks, and that was work. That was real work. These guys today, they got it pretty lucky, really, with Pro Tools and all these other things. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, because we learned so many different ways of doing things that we had to because we didn't have anything to fall back on except our hit and miss knowledge, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun.
So how many tracks did you record at once back then?
We could record up to 24, but usually there was 4 or 5 guys in the band, and so we'd and then we'd try to fill the tracks up with stuff we really couldn't play, but we'd try just to fill tracks up and make it sound bigger, But yeah, most of it was done then live. Unlike now, so many pieces are put together. There's guys in LA playing on tracks that are being recorded here in Nashville today, and so it was more live. Things were done live. We'd just rehearse a song, whatever it may be, and go over it a couple times and lay a track down.
There you go.
And it had some spunk to it, and that spontaneity of playing as a musician that I kind of miss, as a player. But I cut my teeth in this town. I didn't come here later in years. I used to get up. I was so young. I took a bus downtown when my brother wasn't working or whatever. I'd take a bus down with a little bag full of songs and walk the streets and all around Music Row and bang on doors, and I really did live that life. What
was that like when you were so young and banging on doors?
It was great, absolutely great. I never went hungry. The publishing companies, the publishing houses, everybody was open to you. They were glad to see you come in with a new song or a piece of a song, or and that's why I'm into co-writing so much and offering up to new writers such as Mary, being able to co-write with people and their fresh ideas and new ways of doing things. And you know, I heard Ross Perot years ago say, you know, let them paint the room purple. You know, and it's true. I think we find ourselves getting on paths that we stick to sometimes way too long. So if somebody new comes in and wants to paint the room purple, let them paint it. You know, it might bring a different perspective to what you're trying to accomplish. So, yeah.
So, I guess you met a lot of people, worked with quite a few well-known people.
I have, yeah.
Have you had any cuts by any of those?
I have. I've been blessed, man, on the songwriting end of things. I always seem to be at the right place at the right time, you know, as a writer.
If you could package that and sell it.
Excuse me?
If you could package that and sell it.
Yeah. As I mentioned, Alabama, the group Alabama, I've had a lot of success with the band as a writer and as a player. And with other artists as well that I've worked with through the years. Drumming, being a drummer got me in on a lot of, you know, the bottom floor and work your way up, you know. So my introduction to most of the artists and bands was as the drummer, you know, and then you kind of work your way in as, you know, hanging out and being on band buses and writing songs together, got a boredom mostly, you know, and then when it come time to record, I was lucky enough to get some songs on the projects, you know, which sometimes did well and sometimes went in the toilet, you know. But that's the life of a writer, you know. But my main love is songwriting. You know, I love the musicians and the musicianship, and as a player, I really enjoyed playing, but songwriting is where my heart is. And for songwriters, I love songwriters. And if there's any doors that I can open up for songwriters, I am the first one to hold it open.
That's kind of an unusual statement in today's world. There's a lot of
me in this world, but I think that goes with anything.
Yeah.
As, you know, outside of music also, you know, there's a lot of that. But there's still some of us old guys around who are willing, you know, to let you pick brains and maybe get a little info that's going to help you down the road, you know, and that's my goal, you know, these days.
That's great.
That's where I'm at these days.
Yeah, see, that's great. You don't hear those kind of offers too much. A lot of keep your day job.
Sure.
You know, and
sure.
Other comments that are not too encouraging.
Yeah, well,
but,
maybe they just wanted more room for themselves or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
man.
We doubt any competition.
Well, old school was everybody was for everybody. Nobody was really out for themselves. It was a collaboration all the way around. You know, if a guy needed a guitar player that night, then whoever played guitar showed up and played. It wasn't about how much am I going to make or where's this going to take me, or it was about who needs what and when. And usually, you know, we got the job done. You know, Nashville was a lot like that. You know, we had a lot of that in this town. You know, with the circuits. You know, the club circuits and studios and everything else. You know, there was a lot of guys pulling for the other guys. You know, and gals. So that's actually how I met Mary. Was through I started doing a songwriting course. I started teaching songwriting, and it started up in Murray State in Kentucky, and it was a pretty successful deal up there. And then I started what was called the Songwriter Development Center, which went a little beyond the classes. And so when I moved back to Nashville, I started doing a little class out here at the what's the name of the college out here? Volunteer State. And that's how I met Mary. She was she took the course, and that's how we began co-writing. So, yeah.
Well, and I'm so glad that you came, Mary, because, you know, co-writing is a big part of this town nowadays.
It is.
And I thought it might be nice to have a couple of co-writers to kind of tell how that works for you.
Yeah.
What happens if you decide to sit down and write a song? Can you walk me through the process?
I'll let Mary.
Well, It doesn't quite happen that way for me, and when we're working together. I've been hearing songs just in my head since I was a little girl, and writing poetry, and either he's hearing something or I'm hearing something, and we share it with the other person, and it develops from there. It's just kind of a chemistry. In fact, sometimes we finish each other's sentences when we're writing together, or he'll have a line and then I'll have the next line, and then he'll have a line, and it just all comes together.
I think I have the luxury of working with who I want to these days, and that's the beauty. Is you can tell writers, from the soul. People, even if they haven't had any success, that's not the point. It's that they want to write. They truly want to be writers, and if that's the case, they will have success. It will follow. Cream rises, and so that's my belief. I write with a lot of writers. I like, I've written with some of the best in this town has to offer, and sometimes it don't gel. It just does not gel. Sometimes it's been like pulling teeth with some writers, and then others you get with, and it just smooth as silk. So I have the luxury of in my life of picking and choosing. So yeah, that's the way it's worked out with us. It's been great. Just about every time we've sat down to write one, we come out with one. So that don't always happen.
No. Well, about a week ago I came over to your house and was able to get acquainted with you and Mary, and you played me some of the songs that you've been working on. But the thing that I picked up on was your passion for it.
Yeah.
You've been doing it for so long. Of course, she's maybe a newer writer, but still the passion and the chemistry, I could see it. And
well, I think the light in their eyes lights ours. Sometimes the flame kind of dies. When you've been doing it as long as I have. But when you run up on people who have this passion like that you're talking about, it can't help but rub off, man. You genuinely get that feeling you used to get when you were younger and really first starting out into it, and if I can't give up an hour or so in a room, and have that passion for an hour, then I need to go back to Ohio, I guess. I don't know, but it usually works itself out, and I'm not one for rushing. I don't rush a song. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it'll come to us.
Yeah.
So that's where that's at.
I asked you if you would do some of your songs whenever you came on the show, and why don't you pick one of them and tell me a little bit about the song, how it started,
okay.
And
I'll do one of the oldest.
Okay.
It's a song called Why Lady Why. It was released by Alabama and in 1980, long time ago, and it was a #1 record. It reached the #1 position. It's a song co-written by myself and Teddy Gentry, the bass player for Alabama. And back when I was working with the band as a drummer, he just swung by the apartment where I was living one day, and we wrote it.
How long did it take to write it?
It took about literally 15 minutes.
Really?
It really did. Or less. It was. There's only 8 lines in the song, and most songs that I've listened to are the ones that have become pretty popular, are really simple songs, When you start picking them apart, you can see how simple they are. I tend to write sometimes like I'm writing a book. You have to edit as you go all through, because you only get 3 minutes to tell your story, so make it count. This song is called Why Lady Why. I am not a singer, I'm a songwriter, but I belch them out anyway, because nobody else is doing them. Why, lady, why can't I leave you alone? I try, lady, try, but the feeling's too strong. You stay on my mind. I feel like a fool. Why, lady, why can't I get over you? Why, lady, why? It was easy before. Try, lady, try. It ain't easy no more to be on my way. Would be the best thing to do. Why, lady, why can I get over you?
Fantastic.
And so on. Thank you.
So
That was the biggest probably I've ever had. It turned out to be one of the biggest selling records. And
yeah, Alabama.
I've had other number ones, but nothing was quite that big.
Alabama was really identified a lot with that song.
Yeah, it's cool.
So.
It's a blessing and a curse.
What?
It's a blessing and a curse.
Oh yeah. Well. So, how early in your time period with Alabama did you write that song?
Oh wow. First year, probably the first year. I was about 18.
Wow.
Yeah, 18.
And when did you cut it? How soon after you wrote it did you?
Well, let's see. We actually recorded an album right after we did a name change. The group was called Wild Country. Then we did a name change to Alabama, and we went in the studio at LSI, the studio I was telling you about, and we recorded a bunch of songs. We had recorded, I think, close to 15 songs, and then out of that 15, the batch came a song called Tennessee River, Why Lady Why, Lady Down on Love. There were several, My Home's in Alabama. We had done all these songs on this same session, and we did the sessions in less than 48 hours. You know, we were in the studio less than 48 hours, and we did all these songs, and out of that bunch came 5 or 6 number ones. We had no idea. We had no idea.
That's phenomenal.
We were having fun. And the album actually got turned down by everybody in town.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. We
That
cut
album?
we cut the album in 1978, and it didn't get a release till late '80.
Wow.
So that's for those of you out there who shop your albums around and CDs and nobody's biting and you get all discouraged and all that. Don't. You never know. If your heart's in it, it'll happen.
We were talking a little bit about Rick's history in country music, and it's been varied from everything from a 3-year-old ambition to play the drums to touring with Alabama, writing a lot of their songs, and has had quite a life with that. We may get into a little bit more of that pretty soon, but one of Rick's things nowadays is he likes to write with co-writers, and he likes to write with new co-writers or new writers who may not have had the experience or the opportunity that he had. Mary, didn't you meet Rick at a songwriters class or something?
I did.
What was it like for him to teach a songwriters class?
It was a lot of fun. Very laid back approach, honest about the business and the downfalls and the upside. A lot of what writing and publishing and performing rights, and we went into a lot of things in there.
So, were you, I guess you were really interested in songwriting or you wouldn't have taken the course, but had you had previous interest in songs or just poems, or what was your...
Well, I started writing poetry at a very young age and short stories, and I've always been a writer. I never wrote songs per se, but I heard melodies and words. I don't know where they came from, but since I was young. And when I moved to Nashville, I thought, well, what a great place to explore that. And saw that there was going to be a songwriting class, so I signed up.
And where was this class held?
This one was at Volunteer State. And
how long did it last?
it was 6 to 8 weeks.
You can cover a lot in 6 to 8 weeks, can't you?
You can.
Yes. And he was very generous, with the information he shared with everybody and with his time. I consider myself one of the lucky ones because I took him up on that offer, and he had a lot of great mentors I know, and he's one of the old school guys now, and so I've benefited from that, just, and then from other mentors that I met along the way when we've been doing demos and in the studios, and just some really great teachers.
Well, sounds like you've got a success story here in your class, represented right here. I just wanted to thank you so much for being on my show. You've been a great guest, both of you.
JR, thank you so much for having us.
It's been so interesting to, I could do another one right quick, but
Wow.
we won't tonight.
Thank you.
We'll have you back sometime.
Okay. We'll be glad to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Y'all tune in later for more J. Raleigh Jones Show.